Hello, my name is John, and today we'll be reading Katie Hopkins' Stand Strong in the Fight for Freedom, a freedom fighter's warning to America from Britain. Posted April 3rd, 2018 on Front Page Magazine. Katie Hopkins is a British citizen who was speaking on Tucker Carlson show recently. Katie Hopkins. My name is Katie Hopkins, or as I am otherwise known, the female Farage, the British Ann Coulter, or the biggest bitch in Britain. On a point of detail, unlike Farage, I still have all my own teeth, and some of mine are actually white. Smoking kills people. Unlike Anne, I can talk about something other than a wall. As for my being the biggest bitch in Britain, I am only 130 pounds. I did put on half my body weight, just over 50 pounds, and lose it again to prove fat people are lazy, but that's one for another day. It is my great pleasure to be here with you today in this very beautiful hotel in LA, which stands in rather direct contrast to my last 3 days living and reporting from Skid Row downtown. Tucker Carlson did his best disgusted face on Fox when I ran my report with him last night. In fact, Mark Stein and Jordan Peterson were on too, so it was a good night for truth tellers across the globe. You know, I went to live on Skid Row for a bit because so often we don't want to look at the ugly things in life. When I was last here in LA, I drove past Skid Row just like everybody does. I had the area pointed out to me, row after row of people, washed up on the pavement in their tents like dirty plastic on the shoreline. Sometimes I think we imagine if we don't look, maybe it will all go away. My sister doesn't watch the news anymore for the same reason. There is an element of self-protection, which I really get. I took a map from a hotel nearby, and they had put a sticker right over the top of the whole area. All the blocks of Skid Row hidden away, as if that would make it all okay, but it's not okay. It is worse than I expected, and I have spent time in the migrant camps of Calais, France. There is a quote from a history book I want to share with you. In the poorer parts of the city, hygiene was impossible to maintain in the overcrowded tenements and garrets. There was no sanitation, and open drains flowed along the center of winding streets. The cobbles were slippery with animal dung, rubbish, and the slops thrown out of the houses, muddy and buzzing with flies in summer and awash with sewage in winter. The stench was overwhelming, and people walked around with handkerchiefs against their nostrils. That was written about the London slums in the 1600s, right before the outbreak of the bubonic plague. You will recall the plague came from a bacteria infected in rats, spread by the bites of fleas. This description fits downtown LA right now, a sea of human fluids, filth, slops, and rats. The sidewalks are slippery underfoot, and the rats teem about your ankles. It is a human health time bomb waiting to go off. The people are beyond help. It is out of respect for that the city needs to take complete control. Tears and sympathy will not cut it. Moving in the military, physically assisting Skid Row residents into supported housing units, and 4 million gallons of Clorox just might. We may look away now, but those tents aren't fixed, nor are the rats. As the human numbers grow, so do the tents, and the rats, and the fleas on the rats. One day they will be outside the door of the Democratic politicians, and maybe then they will see action is needed. However, washed and freshened up, I am back in action, ready to face another day, and it feels good to be here in the land of the free, a phrase I would not use to describe my own country, so desperate to please the Saudis and submit to Islam. The recent exclusion of a law-abiding American citizen, Brittany Pettibone, a right-wing activist, and her boyfriend, the Austrian Martin Sellner, on the grounds of future hate speech as yet unsaid, was a new low for Britain. They were detained for 2 days at the border of the UK and then deported because the speech they wanted to give at Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park might upset local communities. Local communities. Love that. That's a euphemism for Muslims like Asians. That's BBC's euphemism for Muslims too. If 100 men are found guilty of raping our children in mass grooming gangs, the BBC uses the term Asian and throws a few Sikhs, half of India and a bit of Taiwan under the bus so that the Pakistani man raping our children don't get hurty feelings. Inshallah. The Pakistani Muslim men sent down this week for abusing girls as young as 13 were referred to as Oxford men. Their names? Asad Hussain, Kramer Abai, Khalistan Hussain, Kamran Khan, Rahid Ahmed, Aladita Yusuf. Yup, Oxford through and through. Again, if you can't be honest about a problem, you sure as heck aren't going to be able to fix it. Lauren Southern, another right-wing activist from Canada this time, was also detained in Calais and deported because she once used her platform in the UK to pose the question in provocation. Is Allah gay? I mean, I'm blowed if I know either. I guess it would be a touch unfortunate for him if he was, given Muslims are not huge fans of homosexuals, and ISIS is rather prone to shoving gay men off tall buildings. That'd be quite a story, wouldn't it? ISIS shoves Allah off tower block. I digress. She was deported, essentially for breaking blasphemy laws that no longer exist. And if we now have de facto Sharia, what's next? If I commit adultery in the UK, will I be stoned by angry Muslim policemen? Given my sexual history, it's not looking good. Lauren Southern, the Canadian journalist, was hauled off a bus at the border and deported. This is the same ferry port where I have watched truckload upon truckload of illegal immigrants knowingly wave through without question. A jihadi who put a bomb on our subway came to the UK via the same port of Calais. He told officers he had trained with ISIS for 3 months, learning how to kill unbelievers. We gave him a home, a foster family, and an income. And in return, he made a nail bomb and chose to plant it in the carriage of school children on the subway. It strikes me that freedom is rather like your sight or your hearing, or being doubly continent. Fundamental to life, but skills you don't truly appreciate until they start to go. I cannot read without my glasses. The time I waste looking for the darn things drives me to distraction. Freedom is very much the same. Now I see it being clawed away. I find myself looking for it in other countries and encouraging everyone to hold on to it for as long as they can. It is my consistent message to Americans. Do not let your country become the UK. Do not let yourselves fall as we have fallen. Fight for your freedoms every day. The fight is real. The assault on your Second Amendment rights is relentless. It is well-funded, immaculately coordinated, and politically loaded. There are dark forces at work behind the facade of crying kids. I watch the kids as they march for our lives, holding their banners, getting selfies of themselves. To be fair, some of the fatter ones could do with a bit of exercise, so it wasn't all bad. I did wonder, for all the talk about enough being enough, if they're ever going to shut up. I mean, how many times? But I am a mother of 3 children aged 13, 12, and 9. I do not let my kids make big decisions when they are upset. We wait till we have all calmed down and feel ready. Good parents do not let little people make big decisions, especially when they are upset. Good politicians do not look to children to make policy, especially not on guns. Scratch beneath the thin veneer of these kids enjoying attention and taking selfies for social media, and there was not much substance to this march. Just like the women's marches in Washington, nothing changed. A few women went for a walk in silly hats. That's it. Coordinated by the globalists, CNN, and celebrity fools, the march should serve as a powerful reminder to all of us, of the connected forces at work seeking to erode the freedoms your founding fathers made constitutionally yours. In support of these rights of yours, I'm proud to say I am a card-carrying member of the NRA, and my son is very pleased with his new hat and duffel bag. I have put the NRA car sticker on my car. Other mothers have stickers that say baby on board. I like to imagine mine has bullets. For many, the right to bear arms is not a freedom. It is in fact a necessity for survival. For whites in South Africa, guns protect them through their day. I am grateful to so many people in this room who kindly supported my mission to cover the plight of whites in South Africa. In intention, I first announced at the Freedom Center weekend in November of 2017. 2 months later, in January, I was there, in country with a cameraman, an armed security team, and 2 military wagons capable of getting us closest to the story and the other side. In urban areas, whites live the same cage existence as animals in zoos. Whites in captivity, living behind fences, in gated communities, and behind bars. I did a school run with one mom. She calls into security, says she is leaving the house, drives the children through the automated gate, changes her route to school every day, and returns home another way. She checks her home cameras from her phone before she operates the gates to her drive, in case the gangs are lying in wait. On farms, only the richest can afford to defend their land and their crops. 22 million pound mega fencing make avocado and macadamia farms the new high security prisons, with helicopter reaction teams ready to respond if there is trouble. This is the security you now need to farm fruit in South Africa. It is a different world for poor farmers. Vulnerable and exposed, they talk about when, not if, they will be attacked. There have been more than 100 attacks and 15 murders in 2018. A serving policeman who asked to meet me in confidence estimates that within 3 years there will be no more white farmers in South Africa. Whites will have been cleansed from the land, hunted to extinction, and unlike the white rhino, nobody cares. Mr. Johann Berger, senior researcher at the Institute for Security Studies, agrees. He says that to be a white farmer in South Africa is statistically more dangerous and has a higher mortality rate than being a policeman on the front line. 59 murders per 100,000 compared to 55 murders per 10,000. Here in California, the figure is 4. Mariandra was married to a white farmer. She was asleep in her lounge when her daughter and her husband, when a black gang broke into their home. Her husband offered them anything they wanted, the car, the computer, the safe. Instead, they shot him right there in front of their 6-year-old daughter. They wanted to take Mariandra downstairs, so her little daughter offered the men her piggy bank if they would let her mummy live. She survived. Mariandra buried her husband and 5 days later gave birth to their first son. She is tiny and frenetic. I asked her what will happen if she stops moving, stops trying, stops organizing. She says she will fall over. Bernard came home from church with his father, wife, and children to light a barbecue for the family. A black gang was waiting for him in his garage. 2 hours later, his father was dead. His wife was strung up with fencing wire in the garage, and his son had been shot at, but lived. Bernard ran to his father dying on the stoop and pleaded with him to hold on, because they had so much work to do together on the farm. But his injuries were too cruel. I learned that these farmers and their families, death is not the end of it. Death might be a blessed relief for those the gangs torture and brutalize, but for those left behind, sometimes I felt like they might suffocate in their sadness. They could barely keep their heads up to breathe. Bernard's 11-year-old doesn't want to live. He wants to join his granddad in heaven and his smallest son who saw the whole attack. His grandfather shot, his father beaten, his mother strung up with wire. He cannot sleep. He is on antidepressants and sleeping pills. He is a tormented soul. He is 8 years old. There are many more like him. I tell you these stories not to make you sad here at lunch, but out of respect for these lovely people I met and for their impossible lives, and as a reminder of why our freedoms and your rights matter. Your right to speak, your right to bear arms. For every crying child from Parkland screaming BS at the NRA, I think of little Mariandra's daughter offering her biggie bank if the killers would only let her mummy live. Some white farmers are fighting back with their ownership of weapons. Their wives are taking weapons trainings to save their children when the time comes. Once you lay down your arms, once you lose the right to speak freely, what do you have to defend yourselves with? With what will you defend your freedom to life? I remember in Sweden talking to a fireman in the toughest fire station in the country, planted in the heart of a no-go area in the toughest suburb. He was building a bigger fence around his fire station to fend the engines from the migrants who were stealing the cutting equipment and the fuel from the tanks. I asked him whether we would need to build more walls and more fences in the future to keep people out. He said, no, we will build walls to keep in the people we want to keep safe. I am sure he is right. And that's what we are all doing here. What we do when we stand together for the conservative cause, when we reach out and hold hands with fellow patriots and those defending our freedoms. We create a wall to keep the madness out, to keep the darkness from our doors, and to keep the things we love safe inside. My South African farming friends love family, God, and the land. My American friends love life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Together we stand strong. Thank you. This video is a production of the School of the White Crane. My name is John Brooker, and you could reach me through commentary on this video or through my Gmail listed here. Please share this video with family and friends and on social media. May God richly bless you.